As I pushed through the hospital's glass doors, my breath fogging in the Boston morning, the air bit at my knuckles. Nevertheless, I was 42 years old, in good health, and I ran a business that kept the lights on. I was living the life I believed I had earned, spending weekends at home, playing chess with friends. The headaches had started a few months ago, sharp, sudden. They began to bug me, which I chalked up to stress from late evenings spent calculating statistics or fighting with contractors. I told myself it was nothing a nice vacation couldn't fix. But last week's call from my doctor's office had been different. The receptionist said in a strained voice, "It's urgent, too serious. We need you to come in." I sat in a room with light green walls, waiting. A clock ticked louder than it should have. I didn't want Dr. Kaplan to walk in. Not with that calm face, not with that clipboard full of practice lines. But he did. He sat across from me discussing blood tests, scans, findings, numbers. It was all a blur until I heard fragments, nodes, abnormal biopsy. Then the words broke through the haze. Stage 2 lymphoma. My chest constricted. He said it was treatable, if we got a good start. But what I felt wasn't fear. It was something heavier, like the air itself had thickened. He spoke of radiation, chemotherapy, a strategy we'd build together. He asked if I had any questions. I didn't. My mind was blank. A white sheet covered everything I thought I knew. I nodded, said I'd call to make the appointment, and stood up. My legs didn't feel like mine. Outside, the cold slapped me awake. I had to tell her, my wife, the woman I built a life around. I leaned against a brick wall, the phone heavy in my coat pocket. We'd been together for 12 years, met in college, laughed during late-night study sessions, promised forever in a tiny chapel with stained glass windows. She'd know how to make this feel less like the world was falling apart. I dialed clumsily and waited. Her voice was sweet when she answered. "Hey, what's up?" she asked, half listening, to something else. I could hear music and slight laughter in the background. I explained everything, Dr. Kaplan, the diagnosis, the treatment plan. I didn't sugarcoat it. I never had to with her. There was a long pause. Then finally, she spoke. "We'll get through this." I clung to those words like a lifeline. I asked if she could come home. She hesitated, then added, Maybe sit with me tonight so we could talk it through." She was working on a project. It couldn't wait. "Tomorrow?" she asked. "Okay," I said. What else could I say? I ended the call. I drove home with my throat tight, like I was seeing the streets for the first time. The house was silent, the kind of silence that crushed your ears. Her shoes weren't by the door. Her coat wasn't on the hanger. I checked the kitchen, the bedroom, even the guest room where she sometimes worked late. I only texted, "Are you okay?" No reply. I poured. A glass of water, sat on the couch, and stared at the TV without turning it on. My message stayed unread. I thought about Dr. Kaplan, the way his pen tapped the paper. His word, treatable. I wanted to call someone else, my dad, my brother, a friend, just to make it feel less like drowning. But my phone felt like a brick. I thought of the company, clients with deadlines, the chessboard in the den, the game I left behind. My friend, always cheating at chess but always making me laugh, and her, how she used to curl up beside me, her hair tickling my cheek. Where was she? I checked my phone again. Still nothing. The clock struck 9:10 p.m. I convinced myself she'd walk in at any second, apologizing, her voice full of concern. But the hour passed. The house stayed empty. I went upstairs, laid on my side of the bed, staring at her pillow. I wasn't just carrying cancer. I was carrying the weight of silence. Her pillow was untouched. My head throbbed, not from the diagnosis, from something else. I repeated her words like a script. "We'll get through this. It should have meant more." meant 12 years, but it didn't. So I closed my eyes and went to sleep. When I woke, I hoped she'd be there, that we'd face it together. But the bed was still empty. Harsh sunlight stabbed through the blinds. I checked my phone. Still nothing. Downstairs, the kitchen looked untouched. The same glass of water sat on the counter. I stood at the sink, hands bracing the edge, and realized she hadn't come home. Not last night. Not this morning. Stage 2. Lymphoma. Treatable. And I was alone. The world outside moved on. Neighbors backing out of driveways, like nothing had changed, but everything had. The treatment room was a box of scrubbed white light. I sat in a recliner that creaked under my weight, a thin blanket over my lap. 4 lines fed into my arm. The drip, rhythm was the only sound. My head still spun from the diagnosis, even though it had been a week. I imagined this moment differently. Someone by my side, but the plastic chair beside me was empty. I had called my brother yesterday to tell him treatment began today. He groaned. "Work's crazy, big project. Can't leave. You understand?" I nodded into the phone, though he couldn't see it. I left a voicemail for my dad. He texted back later. "Hospitals aren't my thing, but you're tough. You'll be okay." I read it twice. Didn't call anyone else. Wasn't ready for the chess guys offering sympathy. Wasn't ready for it to feel real. My wife. I'd called her this morning. She answered on the 4th ring. "Chipper." "Hey, what's going on?" "Waves and music in the background," I told her. That today was the start. That I'd be at the hospital by noon. There was a pause, then laughter. "Oh, today was the start? I'm at a spa in Positano. It's beautiful." My stomach dropped. I asked softly, "With who?" She replied, "With him." His voice cut in, then silence. "You'll die soon anyway," she added like a punchline. "At our wedding. Why bother showing up?" The call ended. I hadn't even spoken. I stood there, in a sterile cage, 4 lines in my arm, blanket on the floor. Not from the chemo, from what I'd just heard. I wanted to scream, but all I had was this hollow ache, like something had been ripped out of me and the edges left raw. The nurse came in, asked if I needed anything. I shook my head. I stared out the window. Gray skies. Bare branches. I focused on the trees, the wind, the clouds. Anything but the chair. Anything but the silence. Anything but the truth. I had built a life I thought was solid. 12 years. A business. Secrets shared with a best friend. Now, they were in Italy, and I was here, alone, fighting something I didn't choose, poison dripping into my veins. I tried to remember her smile at our wedding, her jokes about